Welcome you to our Peaceful Solution Character Education 2012 webinar. It's great to see all of you. I see some faces that I recognize, and I see some new faces. I want to welcome you all here today. I want to start today. We're going to start in our Peaceful Solution Character Education Parenting Manual. And we're going to be working out of that book today. And I want to start off with asking you all a question. How many of you remember when you were a child? You remember being, I'm not going to ask you anything personal. How many of you remember when you were younger and you were asked this question? I think I was asked this question around the 7th or 8th grade. And you were asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? Yeah, so you had shaking. How many of you remember that? What were some of the answers you gave or your classmates? I see some of you chuckling. Yes?
I wanted to be a ballerina.
She wanted to be a ballerina. Let's give her a hand clap. Okay, ballerina, yes?
I wanted to be a nurse.
You wanted to be a nurse. Let's give her a hand clap. Excellent. Anybody else? What do you remember? Yes? She wanted to be an actress, she said with that nice big smile. Let's give her a hand clap. Yes?
I wanted to be a scientist.
She wanted to be a scientist. These are excellent, yes?
I didn't know what I wanted to be. I just wanted to get out of the car.
Okay. Well, she was in the process of making her plans. Anybody else? Anybody else? Yes? Say it again.
I also wanted to be a nurse.
She also wanted to be a nurse. Let's give her a hand clap. I remember sitting there. I remember being in class thinking, wow, there's so many options. There's so many options, and I loved typing. And I was thinking, boy, one day I want to be a stenographer. I want to be able to, yes. I see some faces going, ah. But I did. I wanted to be a stenographer. And as, I grew up, I did things to, achieve that goal. But the reason I ask you that question today is because I was thinking about it. As I learned the Peaceful Solution, I started thinking about it. There was one thing that I don't recall ever being mentioned. One particular position, one particular job, and it's one of the most important jobs on the face of the earth. Can anybody take a wild guess what that position is, what that job is? Yeah?
A mother.
A mother, a parent. Let's give her a hand clap. Yes. And I thought about that, and I thought about it, and I said, that should be at the top. That should be at the top. I mean, all of those other positions are awesome, and we need them in our society. But the most important job is a parent, the role of a parent. And so we're going to look at that a little bit today. But I want to ask you something before we get started. I want to ask you, we see how, things are today. My question to you is parenting easy? Now, I want you to think about that question, because I don't want you to just say yes, okay, or no. I want you to give me a reason. Think about it. Is parenting an easy job? Yes.
I know that parenting is not an easy job because I didn't know how to be a parent. My folks were divorced when I was real small, and I just didn't have the example before me. And I didn't see any books on it.
Yes, excellent. She said she knows it's an important job, but when she was younger, she didn't see any books on it. There was no example, right? So, no, it's not an easy job. We need something. We need a manual, and we now have a manual, right? How many of you have ever heard that? Someone say, they're going to have a child, and it's like, there's no manual. I don't know what to do. But we do have a manual. And parenting is not easy. It's not easy. Because we have a lot of examples in society today to where we see a lot of things taking place, and it makes parenting a challenge. Even though it's not easy, I know it's a challenge, but I want you to keep in mind that although it's a challenge, it's possible to raise respectful, positive, peaceful children. It is possible, and we're going to see that today. The first thing we need. And what did she say? What did this lady here say? What did you say you needed?
Books to read or something.
And you said also examples, right? So we need examples, and we need tools, right? So I want to show you something. I have a picture here I'd like for you to take a look at. I'm going to just slowly pass it around. You tell me what you see there. I see some perplexed faces. What are you showing me there? Can you see that over there? What do you see there in that picture? Yes?
It appears to be a clean environment for breathing and relaxing in.
Clean environment for breathing and relaxing. Yes.
I see mountains.
She sees mountains. Yes.
I see peace.
She sees peace. I'm so glad that all three of you saw those different things. Yes, there's different things. And we're going to start off with yours. You said, I see a mountain. We were talking about parenting being a challenge. Liken it to climbing a mountain. Now, as soon as you know that you got to climb that mountain, okay, would you go out with these kind of shoes on? High heels, a nice suit jacket, and you're ready to climb that mountain, right? You're not ready to climb that mountain? Why not? I couldn't climb that mountain with high heels and a nice suit jacket on? Why not? Who can tell me why not? Yes. She said you break your neck. Yes. Yes?
You don't have the right equipment.
I don't have the right equipment. I need the right tools. I need the right shoes. I have to consider things. I have to think about what? Temperature, climate. I have to think about altitude. I have to think about a lot of things. And so I want you to think about that, because in parenting, the number one thing that we focus on in the Peaceful Solution is understanding the connection between parenting and character. Okay? So in order to take on that challenge of parenting, we have to have positive moral character. It's one of the tools that we must have. It's our first step. And we're going to look at that. I'm going to turn over to page 17, and we're going to start in Unit 3. Page 17, Unit 3, understanding the connection between character and parenting. Now, one of the most important things that, like I said, is parents, us as parents, understanding that it's our character. Our character matters so much to our children. It's important that they see who we are. And I know a lot of times we, as parents, we don't really think that our children are looking, or they're listening, they're paying us any attention, but they do. Our character, we have to be that example. As she said, we have to role model what we want our children to be. Now, character, what is character? A lot of people, you hear that word character. What are the positive character traits that we must have within ourselves in order to be positive, effective parents? Okay, what is that? What are some of those things? Anybody know? Anybody know any positive character traits? Yes?
I would say patience.
She says patience. That's probably number one. Patience. Patience is a very important character trait. I'm going to write that on the board. Patience. Anybody else? Yes? Responsibility. Patience, responsibility. Okay, anyone else? Being respectful. We're going to get a few. I see your hands. Yes? Humility. All right, my board is getting full. Yes? Self-control. That's right up there with patience. Now, you name some of them. Patience, self-control, responsibility, respectful, right? Humility, self-control. But did you know that all of our character is made up of both positive and negative character traits? So we've got to learn how to first identify which ones are positive, like you did today, which ones are positive, which ones are negative, and learn how to weed out the negative ones, to remove those. And so I want to give you a little exercise. So I want to see if you know how to know which ones are positive or negative. So I'm going to look at we're going to be taking a look at pages 18 and 19. And if it's positive, if it's a positive character trait, when I call it out, I like for you to say as a group, positive. If it's negative, I like for you as a group to say negative. Okay? You ready? You got to be very fast, quick on your feet. Here we go. Envious. You had to think about it because you saw me go. Yes? Okay. Humble. Positive. Okay. Deceitful. Negative. Okay. Considerate. Positive. Disloyal. Negative. Trustworthy. Okay, here's one. Got to think about this one. Indecisive. You got low on me. Indecisive is negative. And see, a lot of us, I know before the Peaceful Solution, I never would have thought that was a negative character trait. I'm just like, well, I just can't make a decision. Give me a minute. But if it becomes a pattern and a habit, then it's not so great. Right? Okay. So we have all these different traits. We have positive and negative character traits. And those are things that we have to identify and say, well, I've got to get rid of the negative ones. I'm going to keep the positive ones because our children are watching us. They learn from us. We are their first influence. Did you know that? We're their first influence. We're their first role model. Okay, I want you to think about this. There's a lot of different ways. I'm going to turn over to page 21, and we're going to look at some scenarios. Okay, I want you to see that. It's character scenarios. Now, because remember, our first step is for us to honestly evaluate our own character. And when we can evaluate our own character, we start eliminating the negative, and we start holding firm to the positive character traits. We then become that effective, positive role model, example that you were looking for when you were younger as well, right? So, how do we see that? How do we know? How do we do that? Put ourselves through that test. How do we do that? Well, what we have to do is we have to evaluate the choices that we make whenever we're in a situation, a moral situation. And so we're going to do that. Before class, I gave all of you a sheet of paper. You should have a sheet of paper on your chair. Take out a pen and pencil. This is going to be private. I promise I'm not going to share it with anyone else. But you're going to do a nice little self-evaluation. Okay? So you can actually get to see for yourself, hey, the Peaceful Solution is right. We do. We all still have positive and negative character traits within us. And you get to see the ones that are positive. Great. And praise yourself for that. Keep that one going. But those that are negative, we're going to try to weed those out. Okay? So I'm going to give you a moral situation. You're going to tell me, you're going to write down whether you do this, what you do. If you do this, always, sometimes, or never. Okay? Always, sometimes, or never. Okay? Scenario number 1. You give your child an instruction, and she or he disobeys you, and you correct them immediately. Always, sometimes, never. Okay, here's a big one. The next one. You make mistakes. But when you do make those mistakes, you admit that you're wrong. Well, don't look at me. Sometimes, always, or never. Number 3. Even when you are upset, you remain calm and you deal with situations appropriately. I'll repeat that one again. Even when you are upset, you remain calm, and you deal with situations appropriately. Always, sometimes, never. Now I'm just going to kind of skip down because on this page we have about 20. And when you get your copy of this book, you can do your own self-evaluation. This one is important too. You have a choice between paying a bill and buying a new outfit, ladies. Always, you pay the bill. Sorry, you pay the bill. Always, sometimes, never. And the last one, someone cuts you off in traffic. You blow your horn and you call them names. Always? Sometimes, when I'm in a hurry. Or never. All right, so let's see how well you did. Okay, please fold that up, put your name on it. I'm going to mail them to the White House. No, just no. No. Okay, let's see how well you did too for yourself. Okay? So now it says, if your responses, all the responses for the first three should be always. You have always, give yourself a hand clap, or clap for somebody else so you look like you did great on that one. Okay. What about the one where sometimes you blow your horn in traffic at someone else? That one should have been never. Give somebody a hand clap. All right? Now, think about it. I want you to think about it, because if you have something on there, and there's like 20 more, there's lots more when you get the book, you go through those yourself. But think about it this way. I love this, the way that the Peaceful Solution has it, because we get to analyze ourselves. We get to evaluate ourselves and then analyze and see how we handle situations, moral situations. And I think about, I was reading this and I was thinking about, oh my, because I remember a while back, I didn't even think about it. I was working for an airline, and one day I didn't want to go. I wasn't ready to do something else. And, I thought about a phone call. And, okay, I have to say, I had a phone call, and they called and they said, somebody else answered the phone for me. And I said, no, tell them I'm not here. And then after I found out there was a Peaceful Solution, I thought, oh, my, I had to go back and apologize to that young person and say, I'm so sorry for telling you that. Because what do you think that taught that person? What do you think that taught that person? Was it teaching them to be honest? No. And so that's why I said we all make mistakes. And we admit part of the Peaceful Solution is to admit that when you make a mistake. And the best part about learning character is that our character is always changing. It's always developing. It's always changing. And we want to make sure that it's going in the right. I would never do that now, by the way. Let me put that disclaimer in there. But our character is always changing. And it's very important that we make sure that it's changing in the right direction. How many of you have ever heard that old saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Is that how it goes? Do you believe that? Do you believe that? No. I just recently heard a Peaceful Solution. I want to show you this picture too. I like pictures. I know you're going to love this. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't he beautiful? Look at the smiles on your faces. Isn't he beautiful? Isn't he beautiful? See that? And it made me think about that old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but you can. Instead of thinking of it as tricks, think of techniques. We can always learn, positive techniques, the positive character traits within this book, within the Peaceful Solution to help us. And I heard one of our other Peaceful Solution representatives say recently, he said, you know what, I'd like for you to think of it like this. He said, give a dog a good name and then make him live up to it. It's like, oh, I like that one even better. You know, tell them, praise. And it's not so much the dog. You know, these cliches and all of these different sayings are for us. You know, we have to be that example. You know, tell each other, tell our children, you know, you're doing a great job. You're doing a fabulous job. I like it. When you see them demonstrating these positive character traits of self-control, patience, responsibility, being respectful, you know, they're actually playing with each other and they're being respectful. Take that time out to say, you're doing a really great job. I really like to see you all do that. That motivates them. You are then, at that very moment, you're actually being that teacher of peace. You're actually being that example for them, and you have that opportunity. You have that opportunity to do that on a daily basis. So we have a little bit of time. I'd like for us to turn over to page for our conclusion. We're going to turn over to page. We've analyzed our responses. And turn over to page 22. I want to read something to you. It says, when it comes to teaching our children how to have a moral character, we must be 100% certain that we as parents are modeling positive traits in what we do and what we choose not to do. These moral choices determine our character and make long-lasting impressions upon our children. What we think, what we say, because remember, you know, our thoughts lead to feelings, and our feelings lead to actions. They're going to look at what we do more than what we say. They're going to look at our actions more than our words. I know another cliche, another phrase that I heard when I was growing up was, do as I say, not as I do. But that's not the way to model, you know, that's not the way to teach a child. It's actually by our actions. They're going to see what we do. They're going to emulate the patterns of behavior that we have in front of them. I want to ask you a question. We know that we have patience, self-control, responsibility, respectful. I'd like for you to choose one of them and tell me why that particular character trait is so important for us to demonstrate in front of our children. Choose one of those off of the board and explain and tell the class why that particular character trait is important for us to model in front of our children. Anyone? We'll start over here.
Self-control. And I thought self-control because the way we deal with our children, if we lose self-control with them, then when they're interacting with each other, they're going to follow the example that we set, and they're not going to use self-control with each other. And because they follow everything that we do, just like you said. So it's very important that we show that to them at all times.
She said she chose self-control. It's because our children, they watch how we handle situations. That goes back to when we evaluated ourselves in moral situations. The children watch how we handle things, and then they do the same things. You know, if we use self-control, you know, that child is misbehaving, and we use that self-control, we speak to them kindly, and we show them how to do that, they're actually going to look at that, and that's how they'll handle it. But if we handle it, if we're aggressive, when they're not being obedient to us, what are they going to do when they think someone's not listening to them or not really being obedient to them? They're going to do the same thing with their peers. Yeah? Did you have your hand up?
No, I hear my hand up. I believe what she said about that self-control because that's something that I struggle with all the time.
Yes.
That self-control. Now, the responsibility, I learned that real well.
I think a lot of us did. I think a lot of us, those of us who were born when gasoline was 67 cents a gallon, I think we all learned responsibility from a long, that was one of the character traits that were taught to us as we were growing up, right? Responsibility. But it's so important for us to have the combination of all of them, using them regularly. What about respect? Why is respect so important? Think about the interactions that our children have on a daily basis. Why is that important? Yes?
It goes beyond teaching politeness. That when I was growing up, it was important to be polite to, people, but beyond that, it teaches your children that they're valuable, that you value them as a person, and that they should value you also. And then they have that same attitude towards everyone that they meet.
She said respect teaches your children that you value them and they value you. And it's important that we do that. It's very important that we show our children respect. You know, respect, everyone deserves respect. Regardless if they respect us or not, they deserve respect. And eventually, if we continue to practice this, we're going to teach others to be respectful to us. Yes?
I was thinking about what she said about respect. And if we teach our children to respect themselves,
Yes.
they're going to be less likely to do the risk-taking behaviors in the future.
Yes. I like that. She said if we teach, let's give her a hand clap. She said if we teach our children to be respectful, have that self-respect, then they're going to be less likely to be involved in a lot of risk-taking behaviors. And that's so important because we see a lot of that. We see a lot of those things taking place, especially with our young teens in today's society. And our goal is to raise children, as we said in the beginning of the class, to raise children who are going to be respectful, who's going to be patient, responsible, and they're going to grow up to be positive, productive citizens within society. And that's our job. Remember, don't ever forget that. The parent's job is the most important job on the face of the earth. And it's not just the parents, but it's everyone who has interaction with those children. You are, in essence, parenting those children. Whether you are the grandmother, the aunt, the school teacher, right, the guidance counselor, whoever you are, if you are interacting with children, you're actually getting that opportunity to parent those children. And this is why I say to you, yes, this manual is for parenting, but it's also for every single adult. Every single adult can benefit from having this and learning how to positively be an effective person in the life of a child. Okay? Let's go on to our last section. We have a few minutes left. Says, never say do as I say and not as I do, because and I never heard this saying before, but it says, or I can do it because I'm an adult. So you're doing something in front of the child that's not proper, and you say, I can do it because I'm an adult. It says these are only excuses for immoral negative actions. This will cause your child to lose respect for you. What we are really saying with these excuses is that in spite of our poor example, our children should nonetheless develop a positive moral character. Now, is that even possible? Is that possible for, that child to develop positive character at that point where they're never being taught, they don't see the example of positive character? It's almost kind of, impossible for them. Now, and that brings me to another thing I want to show you. All right, we're going to end with the fruit. So by now you should know I love cliches and I love little phrases. Who can tell me what comes to your mind based on the subject we're talking about right now? And I see some faces going, what? Okay. What comes to your mind with this? Is there any phrase, any cliches, anything that you can think of? Yes. Oh, my. I didn't think about that one. You said a bad apple spoils the whole bunch. That's true. Yes? An apple a day keeps the doctor away. That's a nice one. That's what you were thinking, too, yes? Oh, you're the apple of my eye.
I was thinking, based on what you said, if it looks like an apple, it's shaped like an apple, it has to be an apple?
If it looks like an apple and it's shaped like an apple, it has to be an apple. I didn't know there were so many apple cliches out there. Oh, wow. Did you have one?
Well, I was just thinking when I see that dealing with the people's solution about the character is the core of a person.
The character is the core of a person. Very nice. Now let me tell you what I was thinking. I grew up hearing that phrase, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Oh! They're like, oh, yeah, So it's very important. It's very important. With that in mind, it's very important that we, like symbolic of that tree, those cliches are for us, be that positive example to our children, because they're going to wind up going out into society with the very exact character that we build within them. It's up to us. It's what we put in within them and what we demonstrate for them. If we want our children to develop these same traits, we ourselves must develop these traits. So I think after this class, you all have a nice understanding of the connection between parenting and character. You can't have one without the other. Remember, no matter how challenging it is, it's possible. With the right tools, the right equipment, you can do it. You can climb that mountain. You can overcome any obstacles, right, within parenting with all the positive character traits. Don't think for 1 minute that, I've been doing things wrong and I've made a mistake, because what? We can learn new techniques, right? We can learn new techniques. And once we start applying these techniques that are found in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, all the apples that fall off the tree will still be beneficial. They'll be positive. They'll be fruitful within our society. I want to thank you for your time. You've been a fabulous audience, and I look forward to seeing you in our next classes. Thank you.